I don't know about y'all, but I've been through so much drama in my life, sometimes I wanna give up. But you know what? I keep it moving. I done been shot, I done been in jail, I done been lied on, cheated on, talked about. You know, never give up. Keep your head up high, look to the sky, and keep swinging, baby. Keep punching, keep jabbing. You know what I'm saying? Stick and move. Never give up.
Live from Indianapolis is the world famous show, my podcast, Soldier Talk. And I'm sitting here today with a good friend of mine, Latoya Rogers. We're going to talk a little bit about your foundation and what it represents. I'm very excited about this show and talk to the people about some exciting things. So why don't you tell the people a little bit about your foundation and what it represents?
All right. Well, thanks for having me. My name is Latoya D. Rogers, and I'm the founder of Black Men Are Love Incorporated. And basically, the nonprofit started when the country was dealing with a lot of turmoil from George Floyd incident. And a bunch of women and myself got together and we were like, we were honestly tired of seeing the society paint Black men in a very negative light. And so we wanted to protest, and we're in the DMV area. We wanted to protest, but we wanted to protest in a different light. And so we did a photo shoot protest in honor to George Floyd and all Black men. And that's how Black Men Our Love was kind of formed. We did the photo shoot and we did a video, and just basically it was an honor to Black men and to show Black men we honor, we value them. And so not only did the women do it, like a week or two later, I went to some of the guys I knew, about 25, and I was like, hey, do you want to do, a photo shoot? And the guys was like, yeah, we'll do one. And so they had, different shirts that stated, value our lives and respect my life, period. And they also did a video. So it was really, really powerful moment. And I kind of didn't want to get confused with Black Lives Matter right. Because we really just want to show admiration, honor, and respect that's due to Black men. So we really just wanted to paint men in a different light than what our society has always portrayed them to be. And so that's what Black Men Are Love Incorporated is really standing for. We're really big in rehabilitating the Black man, helping with housing, job placement, things that Black women can retrieve from the government. And unfortunately for Black men, it's a little complicated. So our organization wants to aid in those areas. And our plan is to go nationwide with it, to have centers all over the country where we can help Black men establish jobs, help with rehabilitation services. And I think that was dear to my heart because I had a brother who was struggling with substance abuse. And to get even rehabilitated was like about 20 grand. And wow. So imagine so many Black men who need help in that area, and financially, unless it's court ordered, how can they receive it, So absolutely. Mainly, I think in order for us to help the image of the Black man, we first have to help sustain the Black man so he can sustain himself. And that comes with helping with, resources that he may not have available to him. But just as to say to him, we got your back. So that's.
And I think that's such an awesome thing, that you're doing, saying, hey, I got your back. You guys are giving resources. to the black man, helping the black man and letting them know, hey, you're beautiful, we got your back, and I'm there for you, and that's definitely something I'm going to support, and push for everybody I know to support, and for the people to support. So speaking of the black man, let's talk about it. Why is the role of the black man so important? Why do we have so many homes in turmoil when the black man isn't in his home? And why is it important for the black man to set the standard in his own home instead of letting his woman set the standard?
Well, well, unfortunately, a lot of households are ran in that light where Black women are the head. And honestly, and I probably will receive, a lot of flack from Black women, but that's out of order, right? If we take it back to a biblical standpoint, God created man first, and in God's effort in creating man, he looked at man and he valued man, and he created woman from the man. So God has always intended for man to be leader, to be head. And because of fall of man, man now has to work to provide. And because of the fall, women, now have to, deal with childbirth, and her heart yearns for her husband. I know for a fact that most households are ran like that. There are a few that aren't, but that's a dysfunction. And in turn, our children, pay the price when they're constantly seeing maybe mom lead and dad's voice being suffocated and not really being the strong point in the household. It creates a dysfunction in the family structure. And I think that eventually, hopefully we get back to the point where man rightfully can take his position and women allow him to.
Right. Because the thing is, like you said, allow him to. Nowadays, we've gotten to the point, like you said, where a lot of men stand up and take responsibility as well, because a lot of the women are raising their kids alone because a lot of men have just basically left them by themselves. And so a lot of women nowadays feel like, hey, if I got to do it all by myself, I'm the leader. So they find the right man. Now they got a good man, and they're so used to being the leader, so used to doing it by themselves, they don't want to submit to the man. And then that, which, like you said, causes a dysfunctional home where the woman is the leader and the man is the helpmate. When the Bible made Adam as the head and Eve as the helpmate, but in most homes today, the woman is the leader and the man sit back and is now the helpmate, due to certain reasons. Maybe he, happy wife, happy life. What man doesn't want to sleep in the bed next to his wife at night? So due to certain reasons, a lot of men sit back and let the woman lead and they be the helpmate instead of them lead and the woman be the helpmate. And if the woman leads and the man's the helpmate, that's a dysfunctional household. And so could you talk a little more on that?
Yeah, we see it too often, and that dysfunction in the household creates a disorganized structure in a family unit. You'll see boys, when they used to sing mom lead and direct the household, they will assume when they get wives that the same structure is supposed to take place. So where they're supposed to maybe be the disciplinarian or the one who sets order and structure, they will assume that, hey, well, I'm gonna leave it to the wife because mom did it. And the daughters could also see that and say, well, this is how I'm supposed to run my household. It's not how God intended it. And I believe that's somewhat the reason why the Black family structure is so dysfunctional. A lot of times we can say it's related back to slavery, I don't always want to blame it quite on slavery, because even after slavery, families were still together, right? The Black man was leader and head of his household. It didn't, I want to say it didn't start getting distorted until the men came back from Vietnam War and the 70s came, and men were trying to work and establish themselves in the community and in the household. And I'm assuming from being gone from the household and the women had to finally, do and play lead, then that's when a lot of dysfunction kind of came. And now when they're trying to come back into society, because a lot of the veterans were treated badly for going over to Vietnam. And so when they came back, there was a loss of respect from, a lot of the, country. And they had to now try to figure out their place in society. And I think, with them not able to find work, drugs eventually came into the community, and really everything kind of went haywire from there. So that's why I said I kind of don't want to blame it all solely on slavery, because even after slavery, there was, we stayed together. There was no divorcing, right? We raised children, and the man was valued and looked, upon as head. It's kind of when we start moving up to the 21st century, where you start seeing this structure where men aren't valued. You see them in movies where they're the first to die. You see them in society, they're either, their voices are suffocated. You see them in shows where, they're the goofy one, but not really taken seriously. So it's a whole plot. If I had to say so, it's a whole plot against Black men. Black men are the firstborn, they're the first created, and they're very powerful. And so what better way to target Black men and to diminish his character than to paint him as a villain or a savage, or to paint him as being less than, uneducated, criminal. And that's far from the truth.
Far from the truth, indeed. I'm one who believes that it's hard, and nothing against any other race, but I'm one who believes that it's harder for the Black man to get ahead in society than any other race. And an example I mean by that, I had a friend of mine tell me that he filled out 2 applications, and he filled out one and he put himself as a black male, and he filled out another one as a white, and he put himself as a white male. And he's an educated man, and he filled out the same information on both applications. The only difference was he put himself as Black on one and white on the other, but he put all the same skills and all the same tools on both applications. Now, what do you think happened? Now, he got a call the next day for the white male application, and they hired him immediately. They didn't even call. They didn't even give him a call on the Black male application. So a lot of people think that we making these things up and just playing the race card, but it's just, the facts are, we're getting pulled over by the police more than any other race. We're getting shot by the police more than any other race. I was raised in St. Louis, and St. Louis is the leading city for killing Black males from police officers. So I agree with society paints this bad picture of us. It's harder for us to get ahead than, any other man. And, why do you think it's so hard for the Black man to get ahead? And is it true that it's harder for the Black man to get ahead than any other man, any other race?
I think as far as Black men getting ahead, there are things put in place so they don't, right? As you stated, a guy that you knew who filled out 2 applications and was the one that was accepted, of course, was one where he was Caucasian. That is in our society. And that is, unfortunately, that is reality, right? So I think for Black men, in order to really see results, we had to tap into a higher source at the end of the day, because in this society, Black people are ruled as, cursed or looked at upon as less fortunate, or just targeted, right? And I truly believe that has to be because we're definitely God's people. And so in order for
one quick second, when you said Black people is viewed as cursed, I have to comment on that because that's true. There's a place in the Bible where Abraham gets seen, his nakedness is, he got drunk. His son
Noah.
came in. No, it was Noah. Okay. His son came in and saw his nakedness. So he cursed his son, which was Ham, and his son was Black. So he cursed him and said he would be slave to his other brother, slave to his people, whatever the curse was. And a lot of people take that and say it was meant for Black people to be slaves. First of all, that curse wasn't for a lifetime. And when a father gets mad at his child, you're just mad at your child for that minute. That you don't mean for your child to be a slave. You know what I'm saying? When you get mad at your child, sometimes we say all type of things to our children when they get on our nerves. But that doesn't mean you mean for your child to be taken to captivity, for the rest of their lives because they did something to make you angry. People take that and they twist it and they say, even in the Bible, it says black people are cursed and meant to be slaves. So yeah, I just wanted to make that point real quick when you mentioned that.
Yeah, I'm looking up too, now that we on it, about Ham's nationality or descendants, and it basically says that Ham's descendants settled in southern Arab or southern Egypt, east shore of the Mediterranean and north coast of Africa. So you got Japheth, you got Shem, and then you have Ham. I've actually heard a lot of people state that, in fact, that Blacks did not come from Ham, but that Blacks really came from Japheth. So I don't know how true that is, but if you speak to a lot of people who follow the Bible, then they will say, well, Sham's people were another race and Ham's people were another one. So, I mean, it's a lot to talk about. That's a really good conversation in itself. But yeah, for most part, Black people, Black men have to rely on God in order to get ahead. So I think when Black men realized that they were created first and that Black men actually had a relationship with the God Almighty, that
and the Garden of Eden is actually in Africa.
Is in Africa. Yeah. Yeah. And when
a lot of people don't know that.
Right. And when you think about it, God created man from dirt, right? He breathed life into dirt. Well, what color is dirt?
Absolutely.
If you think about it, dirt is brown. It's dark. So this is actually the color that we were supposed to be. And long term, other nationalities come about, but Black people were the first creation. And I believe that's why, Black people are so hated. Jesus was hated, and we know Jesus was a Black man. So, I definitely say that Black people as a whole has to reconnect back to the Father, right? He's headquarters. And I view it like how it would be to take off in an airplane, before pilots can even fly, they first have to give authorization from headquarters. Headquarters has to signal and let them know that the coast is clear. So for Black people, we have to go day by day, knowing that we first have to check in the headquarters, okay? We first have to make sure that we align properly with the Father and that he paves our way and paves our day. And if we do that, he will make our way prosperous, and the word says that. So, and we shall have good success. So I think once we start leaning back on God and depending on him for everything and allowing him to take full control and show us exactly what it is we're supposed to do and be, then I think we will see success in our Black community. But a lot of times us as a people, just in search in who we are and who God created us to be, because, we were took into a foreign land, as the Bible says, and brought over on ships and sold. If Black people were to reconnect with God, they would definitely be able to conquer more than any other race. And I think that's our downfall, that we in search of God, we look into other religions and other cultures, and God is saying, I'm here. I've always been here. Like, come back to me. You notice in the Bible where God was constantly having the children of Israel in captivity because they were worshiping false gods, right? They were attracted to foreign, native, religious, customs. And so God was like, okay, I am here. And the more you keep going over there, I'm gonna allow your captives to take you captive. So if we, the Bible says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, repent, and seek my face, then I shall hear from heaven and heal their land. So God is telling us we got to repent. We got to ask for forgiveness for following false gods, right? And we got to turn from our wicked ways. So that means we can no longer partake in the things that were, evil, whether it's, partying, whether it's engaging in, premarital sex, if it's substance abuse, whatever it is, God is asking us to turn. And then he said he will hear, from heaven, because I know he hears the cries of our people. Every time a brother is slain, we cry out to God. We go back to God then, we reverence him then, but he has a order that he wants us to fulfill before he comes and heal our land. And part of that order is repentance, and then to turn. That means not to sin no more. So, I'm not saying that a lot of the cases aren't, Black innocent men just being brutally murdered. It is. A lot of it, though, is, can we say that we're blameless in it? Maybe not. We first got to respect our own lives as a whole before we can impede that on another race, right? It's almost like you are a hypocrite when you say respect our lives, but then it's so easy to film, a Black another black brother fighting in the street or shooting in the street,
Right.
or a black sister and another black sister, just like the case that happened in Columbus, Ohio, where the little black girl was murdered. They were kids, right? Fighting each other. Like at a point, we have to take ownership for what goes on in our community. And it
Absolutely.
first starts with the home. It really does.
One of the things I want to touch on, one of the last things I want to touch on, and I think it's really major. I think that, you hear a lot of this from Black people, which a lot of it is true, but, like I agree with what you said, we have to take responsibility for ourselves. And, one of the things we always hear, white man stop me from this, I can't get ahead, white man stopping me from that, white man stopping me from this. But the thing is, the truth of the matter is, you touched on something. A lot of Black men have turned away from God. So
Right.
it's not so much the white man stopping you as it is you stopping yourself. If you've turned away from God, then you're bringing damnation to yourself.
Absolutely.
Because you are worshiping false gods. Now you're not the leader in your home. Your woman's the leader. All these things first start with you turned away from God. So because you turned away from God, you are no longer the leader of your home. Your enemy's getting the best of you. You can't get ahead. Those are punishments. Those are things that happen when God isn't the center, when God isn't the leader. So as time went on, a lot of the race got away from God. A lot of men got away from God, and start worshiping false gods, start worshiping money, start worshiping drugs, start sex. And so they were lesser in the home. The presence wasn't as strong in the home, wasn't the leader that they were, all because of turning away from God. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, most definitely. The dysfunction in the household, it brings upon a curse, right? For the Black family. And when you look at the murders in the streets, and you look at poverty, you look at the child support cases, a lot of this is dysfunction, right? Children were never meant to be birthed out of wedlock. They were meant to be birthed in, a marriage, and so when you do things out of context or out of order, it's no difference than you're trying to build a house and you're building it backwards, right? You start with the top of the house instead of the foundation. At some point, it's going to crumble because it wasn't built on a strong foundation. So if we get back to making sure that our foundation is strong, and that's first dealing with the family, that's first, allowing women to understand their role in the household. I always say, my husband is the order structure, I'm just the enforcer. I enforce his structure, his rules to the child. And that's how the household is supposed to run, right? It's and you got situations and stories where the men are taken, for child support, and then they told they can't see the child. And I'm trying to understand, like, how is even our society is built on that, because that's his seed. It's no difference than, you going to a bank and you putting money in the bank, and then you go to take your money out the bank, and they tell you, oh, you can't have your money. So how is it a man plants a seed, and then when he goes to help his seed, to succeed, you tell him no, he can't have his seed. Like, so it's so many things that's so dysfunctional. Now, I'm not stating, if that parent isn't a great parent, there's some dysfunction with them. Of course, you don't want to endanger a kid, but how is it that, we're in a society where especially Black women are the last to marry, the first to divorce, and then our households, our children are majorly coming up with single parent households. At some point, we have to go back to the beginning, and the beginning is creating the structure. If we created a structure to where we didn't allow premarital sex, right? We stated that across the board for boys and for girls, then you wouldn't have single parenting, which will result in child support, which would result in, the child being reared by one parent. And it's just a downward, catastrophe at the end, because a child cannot grow up with just one parent. And you got single moms say, well, I've done it. Yeah, but at some point, that child is going to have suffered or be inadequate in one area where they may be strong, maybe a go-getter because they seen that, one parent household. They seen that parent, be a go-getter. But over time, they could be lacking in some other form. So it's really evident that you have two parents, and unfortunately, we need to teach boys to premarital, no premarital sex, just like we teach our girls. We need to teach them that, listen, you only supposed to know one wife in that way. You shouldn't be, sowing, your seed in everything that walks, that's the opposite sex of you. We have to teach our boys to value their semen, right? To value their legacy that lives in them. You don't want to just, you're not going to throw your money into anything. And we need to teach boys that, listen, legacy lives in you. So make sure whoever gets a piece of your legacy that they're deserving, that they're worth it, that they come from a strong foundation, and I think that's what we frown upon. Like, I overheard my son talking to my husband, and he said, Donald Trump picks all his children's kids. Picks all his children's spouses. And at first I was like, what kind of mess is that, But then I thought about it. If this is royalty, if we hold millions and billions of dollars, are we just allowing anything and anybody to come infiltrate that? No. We need to be, really mindful as a parent to make sure we set a structure that our children can look at that and say, oh, okay, well, I know I can't bring just anybody home. Like, they have to really be deserving, right. And we should teach that. And there's nothing wrong with teaching that. Christians believe don't be unequally yoked. Somewhat of the same concept, right? It's no way that we can build a strong foundation and you're a Christian and then you fall and have children with somebody that's Buddhist. Like, the two right. don't the two don't mingle.
Two don't mix. Right.
It don't mix. And so there's constantly going to be a button of heads and probably a divorce eventually, right? And so I think that's why God is taking us back. He's like, if we first follow these structures, we should have good success. We should see that in the families. We should see that in our bloodlines. And then we would really be rewarded. But until we go back to that, and we keep trying to do everything, but like I noticed, people are having gender reveals and the father or the mother's not even married. And then the son, they end up having this baby, and then a year later, they're not even together, So it's like we patronize bad behavior, because there is no way anybody should be bringing, children forth without the commitment first. And we've gone away from that. We've gone away from making sure that, hey, you got it that way, you need to go lock it down. Back in the day, you just wasn't, if you impregnated Anne Marie, you was marrying Anne Marie,
Right.
And unfortunately, now it's okay to be with Anne Marie and Rebecca over here and have baby with her and go back and forth. Like, no, it's
and back then they called them shotgun weddings. If you
they sure did, didn't they?
If you got a man's daughter pregnant, then they call a shotgun wedding, and you would be he'll make you marry her.
Yeah,
and
they sure did.
And a lot of people might call that crazy, but they have morals back then. They didn't play that player stuff, and going from woman to woman, and just doing what you want when you want. They made you accept responsibility as the man back then. Oh, okay, so you got my daughter pregnant, okay, and then what time's the wedding tomorrow?
Absolutely.
And it wasn't no planning for a year. The wedding's tomorrow.
Right. Before this baby comes,
right,
you gonna make
she's
an honest
pregnant.
woman out of her.
Right. And she's pregnant, the wedding will be tomorrow. We don't need a year to plan the wedding. Right? We'll take care of that. Don't even worry about that. Right. They didn't play that. They didn't play that.
No.
So this was definitely, so educational. And I'm definitely gonna have you come back on the show a second time, because on these topics that we touch, it's impossible to get it all out in 30 to 40 minutes, because it's so much. You can talk for days on these topics. You can literally talk for hours and days. So we're definitely going to have you come out again, and we're going to do it again. And, before we go, is there any website or anything you want to put out there for your foundation that people can go to?
Absolutely. So just check us out at blackmenarelove.org. And it's a beautiful website. You could definitely reach out to us there. And we should be having some upcoming stuff. If you're on Facebook, you can follow us at Black Men Are Love. And also Instagram, you can follow us at Black Men Are Love as well.
And, for all the people watching the show, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Go to YouTube, find me under SoldierTalk, and subscribe to the show. I want to thank all the listeners out there, all the followers, all the people on the show. I want to thank you, Latoya, for coming on the show and just having, a great conversation about some important facts. And hey, let's do it again. And much love to everybody out there. Until we catch up again, I'm Orseno Walker. I'm your host, and that's it for this show. Thank you till we see each other again.
I don't know about y'all, but I've been through so much drama in my life, sometimes I want to give up. But you know what? I keep it moving. I done been shot, I done been in jail, I done been lied on, cheated on, talked about. Never give up. Keep your head up high, look to the sky, and keep swinging, baby. Keep punching, keep jabbing. You know what I'm saying? Stick and move. Never give up.